Do you need motorsports? You need motorsports? Okay, so today I'm going to explain how this thing works, how the turbo works, why there's a blow-off valve, and then why there's a wastegate, how this thing works. For example, this is a very typical V6. This means the piston, crank. So basically, once the engine starts combustion,
fucking idiot.
So obviously going to produce exhaust gas. So the exhaust gas came from here, which is the exhaust manifold. This is 3, it's a V6. For example, this is a VQ35. So the exhaust gas is being produced by the combustion, by the engine. So it goes here to the hot side of the turbo. This is the turbo look like this, but once we turn this way, this is how the turbo look like. So the exhaust gas goes through here to drive the turbine inside of the hot side, and then there's a shaft and also drive the cold side of the turbo, which is a silver looking one. So it will, and then the air sucked in, like the air goes in from here, since the turbine is actually spinning, so it compresses the air, and after air is being compressed, it goes back to your intake manifold. But since the air is going to be really hot, so there's always requires an intercooler right here. The intercooler can be air cooled or water cooled or whatever the fuck it is. But the air has to be before the air goes back to the intake manifold, the temperature has to be dropped to make the booster thing works. This is the thing here. So exhaust goes right here, spin the turbine, and then shaft, spin another cold side turbine, compress air, go through the intercooler, go back to the throttle body, and then go through the throttle body, goes into your intake manifold to have more combustion. This is how to make more power compared with NA. And then a lot of people ask me, what's the difference between a wastegate and then a blow-off valve? So this is very easy too. The wastegate is actually basically, it can be like internal wastegate, which is actually going to be right here, or external wastegate. But external wastegate is cooler because it makes the sound like chorus car does, which is very good. So there's always going to be a vacuum line from basically here or anywhere in between the throttle body to the turbo goes to the wastegate. For example, if you want to run 10 pound, your wastegate is set up at 10 pound. So after 10 pound, there's a spring right here, the wastegate open, and then it's dump all the unnecessary exhaust gas instead of keep driving the turbine to produce more boost. So after 10 pound, boom, extra exhaust gas is being dumped, and there's only 10 pounds. So the turbo maintains the 10 pounds, goes back to your engine to produce the horsepower, so basically. And then the blow-off valve, what it does is actually, it's more like a wastegate, but not really wastegate for intake, because the wastegate right here is for exhaust. Blow-off valve, that means like, if you go full throttle, like you punch it full throttle, and then the throttle body opens, so the compressed air goes back in here, which is the intake manifold, to the engine. Then once you let off the throttle, so the throttle body is kind of like closed, but the turbo won't stop spinning. It's still spinning. So where did the extra compressed air go? So the blow-off valve, there's a valve right here, opens, it dumped unnecessary air instead of going back to the intake manifold. But on blow-off valve, they have two type of thing. One is the more like stock cars. It's called a recirculation valve, because the air, this one, it dumps the air, just like it dumps it. And the other type of thing is actually, there's another hose goes back to the intake manifold. Once you let off the throttle body kind of closed, but extra air goes back into your intake manifold. So it can make the next gear spools a little bit faster, but I wouldn't be able to make the choo-choo sound anymore. But people like the choo-choo sound anyway. So basically, this is how turbo works. Hopefully you guys understand it. Bye.